Parliament, Mr English presents his second budget of this term of office. Second of 3 budgets, 1 short year away from the likely election. And it's time to reflect on whether National is performing and keeping its promises. Now, we've heard today from Stephen Joyce, and before that, during question time, Bill English, ranting unwisely that the prior Labor government mismanaged the economy. I've got The Economist magazine from this week in front of me, the world's preeminent financial magazine. What is the front page story? The front page story. Acropolis now, Europe's debt crisis spins out of control. Not just Greece, not just Portugal, not just Italy, all of those countries plus Great Britain and others, albeit to a lesser extent. And all of those countries, they went and they did what the former opposition spokespeople in National said New Zealand should do when they were the spokespeople. At the time we had John Key saying, Labor, you should not be running those budget surpluses and reducing government debt. We want tax cuts for New Zealanders. And after he left that position and Bill English took over, Bill English said exactly the same. And those decisions, if they had been theirs, would have left New Zealand in the same position as those countries that are highlighted in this week's Economist magazine, because New Zealand's government debt would be out of control. Instead, this party, the Labor Party, against the strident opposition of the National Party, ran budget surpluses until we had counter-cyclical tax cuts as we left office. And those budget surpluses meant that we left government debt low, gross government debt at 17% of GDP, net government debt at close to zero. Instead, you look at Italy. Italy, 116% of GDP. These are last year's figure. Wow. Great Britain, 68%, but heading high very fast towards 100% of GDP. And we in this country, we know, because we experienced the mismanagement of the economy under the Right Honourable Muldoon, leaving New Zealand's debt at about 80% of GDP, that it takes a whole generation to get it back under control. So I am sick to death of the National Party crowing about economic mismanagement by the Labor Party when they know that we did it right, and as a consequence, we're not one of the countries that The Economist is listing under the heading Acropolis now, European debt crisis spins out of control, because we left the books in good order. I want to turn to the comparison with Australia. The National government said, National was elected on the promise, we're going to lift New Zealand's fortunes and get back to the position of Australia. What's happening? The opposite. We're going further apart. Unemployment's getting worse. And you know, they always say, what's the big difference between New Zealand and Australia? They say, oh look, it's mining. They present this plan. At one stage they were going to open up 467,000 hectares of national parks, and that was going to get us to close to Australia. Well, they've whipped that back to 7,000 hectares, obviously not going to get us to catch up with Australia. And where's their plan? Their Minister of Economic Development, Jerry Brownlee, has no other plan. The big difference between New Zealand and Australia is their savings record, their access to capital. Their access to capital, which gives them the money to invest in productive enterprise, to pay higher wages, to sell smarter products, to have more manufacturing in their home country. And what do the National Party do? Well, they do what they've always done. In 1975, they cut the savings scheme that would have New Zealand in the same position as Australia. That was a Labor Party scheme designed by Roger Douglas, implemented by Norman Kirk. Since then, they've done the same thing again with KiwiSaver. The difference is savings. National Party has not got a plan. The gaps with Australia are growing ever larger.
Chris Rockenwald.